All right, so today we're going to do a deep dive into the world of David Lynch.
Okay.
Now, even if you haven't seen Eraserhead or gotten lost in Twin Peaks, you probably heard of him.
Yeah, definitely.
Sadly, the news of his recent passing at 78 prompted this exploration of his work. So how did this painter from Montana become such a master of the unsettling?
Well, it's interesting to think about how his early life might have influenced his work.
Yeah.
He was born in Missoula, Montana, but, his family moved around quite a bit because of his father's work.
Right.
That constant uprooting must have had some impact.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely adds another layer to those recurring themes of displacement and unease that run through so many of his films.
Right.
Like, think about Blue Velvet.
Yeah.
Lumberton seems like an idyllic small town, but there's this sinister undercurrent just below the surface.
Exactly. And even before he ever picked up a camera,
Right.
Lynch was already immersed in the world of art. He studied painting at the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts, and even dabbled in some experimental short films early on. These early artistic explorations really laid the foundation for his unique cinematic style.
His films are so much more than just storytelling.
Absolutely.
They're truly visual and auditory experiences.
You can absolutely see his background in visual art reflected in his films.
Yeah.
Take Eraserhead, his first feature film.
Okay.
It's been described as like this incredibly haunting, black-humored exploration of dread.
Yeah.
That description really captures the essence of the film.
And it really put him on the map, didn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Eraserhead quickly gained this cult following.
Yeah.
It was so disturbing, so surreal, so completely unlike anything audiences had ever seen before.
Yeah.
And there's this one detail I read about the sound design.
Oh, tell me you're thinking about the baby's cries.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Apparently, those unsettling cries were actually created by recording the sounds of a piglet being slaughtered. I mean, talk about adding to the overall sense of unease.
It's those kinds of choices that really set Lynch apart.
Yeah.
He wasn't afraid to delve into the darkest corners of the human psyche.
Right.
And speaking of disturbing imagery, we can't forget about the baby itself.
Oh, yeah.
That thing was pure nightmare fuel.
Yeah. Once you see it, you don't forget it.
Right.
So here's a question for you, Eraserhead. Was this strange avant-garde film?
Yeah.
But somehow it caught the attention of Hollywood.
Right.
He goes on to direct The Elephant Man in 1980. A period drama that on the surface seems so different from his earlier work. How do you see those two films connecting? Was this Lynch trying to play by Hollywood's rules?
I think it's more complex than that.
Okay.
The Elephant Man, while definitely more conventional in its narrative structure, still grapples with classic Lynchian themes.
Okay.
You've got the outsider, John Merrick, grappling with societal perceptions of beauty and ugliness. The film explores themes of compassion, empathy, and the search for humanity in the most unexpected places.
Wow.
It resonated with audiences and critics alike, even earning 8 Oscar nominations, including one for Best Director.
That's an incredible achievement, especially after something as unconventional as Eraserhead.
Yeah, for sure.
You'd think he would have continued down this path of more mainstream filmmaking.
Right.
But then came Dune in 1984.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about a sharp turn.
Dune is fascinating because, by most accounts, it was a massive flop.
Right.
It was a challenging adaptation of this dense, complex sci-fi novel, and there were rumors of studio interference.
And I've heard that Lynch himself isn't exactly a fan of the final cut.
He's actually gone as far as to disown the film entirely.
Wow.
But even with a failure like Dune, I think you can see how it might have pushed Lynch back towards a more personal and surreal style in his later work.
Right.
Most like he needed to reclaim his artistic vision after that experience.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's almost like Dune was this necessary detour that helped him rediscover his true voice as a filmmaker. And that brings us to 1986 and the release of Blue Velvet.
Now here's where we see Lynch really hitting his stride.
Okay.
He returns to that dark, surreal territory that he explored in Eraserhead.
Right.
But with this newfound maturity and confidence.
Interesting.
It feels like a culmination of everything he'd learned up to that point, both from his successes and his setbacks.
Right.
Yeah. Blue Velvet is fascinating. It's like taking a seemingly innocent image of Americana and peeling back the layers to reveal this dark, twisted underbelly. And it's not just the themes, it's also how he uses cinematic language to build that atmosphere. The way he frames shots, uses lighting and sound design. It's also deliberate and unsettling.
It's interesting that you mentioned sound design. I actually read that Blue Velvet was where Lynch started collaborating with composer Angelo Badalamenti.
Oh, yeah.
But Badalamenti's score adds this whole other dimension to the film. Those haunting, ethereal melodies really get under your skin. It's like the music itself is another character in the film, heightening the suspense and the dread.
It's such an important partnership. Think about that scene with Dennis Hopper inhaling amyl nitrite. The way Badalamenti's score underscores that scene, it's pure Lynchian weirdness.
Absolutely unforgettable. So we've got this string of films that are getting increasingly darker, more surreal.
Right.
And then boom, he goes to television. Twin Peaks hits the airwaves in 1990. What do you think drew him to television?
I think Lynch saw television as a new canvas for his unique vision. He teamed up with Mark Frost. And together they created something revolutionary. They took the familiar structure of a murder mystery and turned it into this bizarre and captivating world. Twin Peaks was a blend of soap opera, horror, and surrealism, all wrapped up in this quirky small-town package.
You mentioned the murder mystery element, and I think that's what initially hooked a lot of viewers. Everyone was trying to figure out who killed Laura Palmer.
It was water cooler talk for sure. But beyond the mystery itself, there was just something so compelling about the characters and the atmosphere of the show. It's like nothing else on television at the time.
So what about the legacy of Twin Peaks? How do you think it impacted television as a medium?
Twin Peaks really pushed the boundaries of what television could be. It paved the way for more complex and experimental shows. It embraced the strange, the unsettling, and the darkly comedic in a way that was completely new for television, and it proved that audiences were hungry for something different.
And its impact can still be felt today, right?
Absolutely. The show has experienced a resurgence in popularity in recent years. It even got a revival in 2017, which is a testament to its enduring legacy. It's amazing to think about a show that originally aired in the early 90s still resonating with viewers decades later.
I think what's so interesting about Lynch is that he wasn't afraid to take risks, even within the world of Twin Peaks. The prequel film, Fire Walk with Me, which was released in 1992, is a perfect example of this.
Fire Walk with Me is a fascinating case. It delved even deeper into the darkness that was hinted at in the series, really focusing on the tragic story of Laura Palmer. It was a much more difficult film than the series. Some might even say it was too dark, too disturbing.
And I think that's what makes it so fascinating. He wasn't afraid to alienate some viewers in his pursuit of artistic truth. It's like he was saying, this is my vision, take it or leave it.
It was a bold move. Some fans loved it, others hated it. But it definitely solidified his reputation as a filmmaker who wasn't afraid to challenge his audience.
So we've talked about Eraserhead, The Elephant Man, Blue Velvet, and Twin Peaks. And what's interesting to me is that even with such diverse projects, there's still this unmistakable Lynchian style that runs through all of them. What is it about his work that feels so singular, so recognizable?
I think it's a combination of things. There's the surreal imagery, the dream logic, the exploration of dark themes. But there's also this incredible attention to detail, a focus on creating atmosphere and mood. And then there's the element of surprise, the way he can juxtapose the mundane with the horrifying.
It's like he's playing with our expectations, constantly keeping us off balance. And he's doing all of this without ever spoon-feeding us the answers. He's more interested in raising questions than providing solutions.
Exactly. He described his creative process as unraveling riddles. It's not about finding the answer, but about the journey, about the act of exploration. It's almost like he's inviting us to become detectives in his world, to piece together the clues and come to our own conclusions.
I remember reading a quote from Lynch where he said, "I don't know why people expect art to make sense. They accept the fact that life doesn't make sense." And I think that really captures his philosophy. He's not trying to create something that's easily digestible or predictable. He's interested in exploring the mysteries of life, the things that we can't fully understand.
And he does it in a way that's both terrifying and beautiful. Think about Lost Highway or Mulholland Drive. These films are like fever dreams. They're filled with fragmented narratives, shifting identities, and this pervasive sense of unease. But there's also this undeniable beauty to them, a hypnotic quality that draws you in.
He won the Best Director award at Cannes for Mulholland Drive and received another Oscar nomination. It's fascinating how he can go from something as commercially successful as that to then create something like The Straight Story in 1999. Talk about a departure.
I was going to say, The Straight Story is such an interesting outlier in his filmography. It's a beautiful film about an elderly man traveling across the country on a lawnmower to see his estranged brother. It's a simple story, told in a very straightforward manner, but it's still unmistakably a Lynch film.
Right, it's got that same attention to detail, that same focus on mood and atmosphere. And while it's certainly his most heartwarming film, there's still this underlying sense of melancholy that pervades the entire story.
And it's a testament to his versatility as a filmmaker. He can create something as dark and twisted as Lost Highway, and then turn around and make something as touching and heartfelt as The Straight Story.
It's almost like he's reminding us that he's more than just the master of the unsettling. He's capable of a wide range of emotions and styles.
And he never stopped experimenting. He was always pushing boundaries, trying new things, refusing to be pigeonholed.
And his creativity wasn't limited to filmmaking. He was also a painter, a musician, a writer.
He even had a stint doing daily weather reports on his YouTube channel.
Now that's something I need to see.
They were surprisingly funny, very deadpan, very Lynchian. It's just another example of how he expressed himself in so many different ways. And then there was his work with the David Lynch Foundation. He was a huge advocate for transcendental meditation.
Right, he believed in its power to transform lives. Didn't he even organize these huge fundraising events with musicians like Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr to support the foundation?
He did. It's amazing to think about how he used his platform to promote something he believed in so deeply. It really speaks to his character.
He was a true artist, an innovator, a philanthropist, and he did it all while staying true to himself, never compromising his vision. It's remarkable, really. Think about it. In an industry that's all about conformity and following trends, he carved out his own path and created this body of work that is just so singular.
Absolutely. He showed us that it's okay to embrace the strange, the unconventional, the things that make us uncomfortable. He encouraged us to think differently, to see the world through a different lens.
So as we reflect on the life and career of David Lynch, what do you think is the ultimate takeaway? What can we learn from this artist who, to many, seemed to exist in his own world, yet whose work continues to resonate so deeply?
I think the biggest takeaway is the importance of embracing your own unique vision. Lynch never wavered in his commitment to his art, even when it was challenging, even when it wasn't commercially successful. He trusted his instincts, and he created something truly special.
He also challenged us as viewers, didn't he? He never shied away from exploring the darker aspects of humanity, the things that make us squirm in our seats. He forced us to confront our own fears and anxieties.
And he did it with a sense of humor. Even in his darkest films, there's this underlying absurdity, a playful wink to the audience that lets you know he's not taking himself too seriously.
I think we've just scratched the surface of the world of David Lynch here. This deep dive has hopefully given you a glimpse into his unique style, his impact on film and television, and the questions his work continues to raise. If you're looking to dive deeper, I'd recommend starting with The Elephant Man or Mulholland Drive. They're great entry points into his world.
And if you're feeling adventurous, maybe try Twin Peaks. It's an experience you won't soon forget.
No matter where you start, I guarantee you'll be captivated by his vision. And maybe, just maybe, you'll come away with your own interpretation of what his films are truly about. After all, there's no right answer, and that's part of the beauty of exploring the work of David Lynch. Thanks for joining us.